Alright, so hi, yeah, it's me, your girl, your Casey. How you doing? I have a problem. Apparently, I do really like to torture myself. The first time I ever went on a plane, I spent the night before the plane ride watching plane crash videos. Currently, I'm on a water fast. Like, you know, all I'm doing is the water. What have I been watching all day? Gordon Ramsay, Hell's Kitchen, Kitchen Nightmares, just all the yummy food, and I am craving an Eggs Benedict so much right now with some nice glistening hollandaise sauce. Usually around this time of month, January, because you know, New Year's resolutions, my church, they're like, we're going to do a 21-day fast. You know, get in a new habit for the new year. Some people are going on keto, some people are fasting social media. People, they come up to me and they say, Casey, how are you benefiting your relationship with the Lord with this fast? And I say, I'm trying to fit in a bridesmaid dress by October for the Lord. So yeah, I do like to torture myself, except with books. Sometimes I made me push through Kafka on the Shore. But anyways, I usually don't like to torture myself with books. If I don't like the book, then I bounce out of that mess quicker than a cinder block bouncing off of a trampoline. Or would the cinder block just go like straight through the trampoline? I don't know. I am not scared to DNF anything. I did not DNF 1 book this month, not 2 books, 5 books this month. I think this is the month I just like realized I really have mostly either I've aged out of a lot of YA or I just read a bunch of bad YA this month. I've also rediscovered that I'm not a big contemporary fan either. Like, I like the gritty, dark contemporaries like The Goldfinch and The Fault in Our Stars, but a cutesy contemporary all about love, yuck. Emergency Contact. I DNF'd this one because it was just too cute. I'm like, oh, there's no drama. There's no drama. Also, this is a book based on like relationships through being someone's emergency contact. Like, you know, it's easier to get to know someone when it's not so awkward meeting them face to face. About this girl and this boy falling in love with each other via only texting. I think I made like 100 pages because like it was actually really, it was good at first. I really liked our girl character. I liked our boy character. The boy I personally related to because he was constantly described as having a wonky smile. I cannot smile on command. If I try to smile in person, I look like the guy Lurch from the Addams Family. I have Elle's eye from Death Note, his little eye bags, and Lurch's smile. That's what I am. But yeah, the whole like wow factor of Emergency Contact is that, ooh, there's a lot of text messages in the book. I personally found those text messages really just random and boring. And a lot of the times too, it's just hard keeping track of who was texting at the moment. So I bounced out of that. Unbecoming of Mara Dyer, read like 60 pages, and I'm like, you two, you, lady and the boy, you're too emo. No. It is filled with so much YA cringe, like the insta-love and just this dialogue. Oh my gosh, the mean girls. Like, my biggest hate in a lot of YA is the stereotypical mean high school girl. She's in every YA. You know Zoya? She kind of fits in that from the Grisha trilogy. That girl from Unforgiven who is literally the mean high school girl. She's everywhere. They usually try to make her really sympathetic towards the end, but it was the side characters, the cringy YA love affair. Ugh. The whole dialogue sounded like from a script from a Hallmark movie. It was either too schmaltzy, sentimental, or it was really stiff. And ultimately, it just had like a really stuffy writing style. Like my brain and my eyes would just like slide off the page all the time because I was bored. Another DNF I read for a friend, or at least tried to read. It's called Tiger's Curse. One of my friends loved this book and I saw it in my library. I saw the whole series. So I was like, okay, fine, give it here. I'll try it for you. Again, I have greatly aged out of YA love triangles. It's about this girl who somehow gets swept up in this Indian curse where she has to free like a 300-year-old prince from his tiger curse. Like, he's trapped in the body of a tiger. And there is a love triangle going on, which I am always a fan of. But that was the only thing this book had going for it. I couldn't hold on. I had to let it go. It was really cute at first, but oh my gosh, so much YA. Like, it had that dialogue between characters that's just so inhuman. Like, the characters always spoke to one another like this. Oh, hello, Samantha. How are you doing today? Oh, hi, Miss Shelby. I'm doing fantastic. How's the husband? Oh, you know, same old, same old. Really, like, basic conversation stuff. But then we get into, like, the plot happening, and it's just so convenient. Like, this girl, our girl, who is, like, the only one, she's the chosen one, who can, like, break the curse. She conveniently gets a job at a circus where she conveniently meet the imprisoned Tiger Prince. I just had a flash of this book being a crossover with Tiger King. Anyways, and then we meet the guy who was trying to save the Tiger Prince too. And he's like, hey, why don't you come to India with us, girl I just met 5 minutes ago? Girl is okay with this. Girl asks her parents for permission. Parents don't even bat an eye, and off she goes to India. And I'm like, very realistic. I mean, I know we're dealing with a love triangle involving tigers, but you could try hard to convince me that this is really happening. Now, this last DNF I had was like a reluctant DNF. Like, I'm probably gonna pick it up later or read it at a slower pace. Because as you can probably tell, after like 4 DNFs, I was done with reading, but I still wanted to read. That's a weird quagmire to be in, by the way. You momentarily can't stand the sight of books, but you can't put them down either. Anyways, when's the strife? I started to get to know this person, and I really like this person, so I really wanted to, support an author and, read their book. So we're in this land. Starts with an H. I will call it huevos, which means egg in Spanish. It's not what it's really called, but I don't know. Anyways, in huevos, the days are gradually getting shorter and the night is creeping in. Soon there will be no daylight left. So we got that drama going on. And we got this king, and Mr. King be like, I know who's causing this eternal darkness to creep onto my kingdom. It's those dang witches, the female ones. They need to skedaddle. And some royal lackey is like, sir, if they just skedaddle, they'll just do their creepy witch magic over there in some other kingdom. Mr. King is like, you know what, you darn tootin', you're right, we just need to kill them all. So yeah, now we have a literal witch hunt. And so this world, huevos, it is a terrible place to be if you're a young, enterprising, witchy young lady. And so our prologue opens up with the birth of this little tiny baby witch. Her name is Ivy, and her mother looks over her in her cradle and she's like, you are the chosen one, you will be the savior of our world. And I'm like, no more chosen ones, I'm very tired of it. But then everything becomes flame and death for like a short moment, and I'm like, you have recaptured my attention, go on. So fast forward about 20-ish years, we're still after those dang witches, because we're after the specific witch that we think is controlling the perpetual night creeping even closer towards us, because it's been 20 years later. Daylight only lasts like a couple of hours now. So we have like this super special squadron of people that hunts down these witches, and one of the most promising individuals in this unit is a dude named Nye. You will either love Nye or you will despise him, because this man is not nice, like at all. I am dark, and I even raised an eyebrow a few times, like, what you playing at? Nye has a traumatic backstory. He suffered through flames and betrayal, lost the love of his life, and in the process of that, his subconscious made an alter ego. His name is Madness. He speaks directly to Nye in his brain all the time. He was my favorite part because I loved it. Having a shady, evil alter ego or a split personality is my favorite thing. And Mr. Madness in this book be like, hey Nye, let's choke him, because our guy Nye is actually infiltrating the system in order to kill the king. And Nye be like, I want to choke him, but I must wait for the opportune moment. Mr. Madness got a few chuckles out of me, so I was kind of enjoying the ride for a little bit, but I did DNF this book temporarily because there's just a bunch going on and my brain could not handle it at the moment. You cannot read this book if you want to light read. No, you have to keep your eyes open, because there's quite honestly a lot of info dumping. There's a lot of world that you just have to soak in, and if you're not ready for it, you will zone out. Your brain will just be filled with white noise for a second, maybe an hour, because sometimes I had to go back and reread what I already read. There's definitely a lot more telling than there is showing, especially with people's emotions, which brings up another topic. Something I did like in this book was that the magic system is emotions based, and if you want to talk about emotions, we gotta talk about Nye again. Nye is so morally gray, he's basically a shade away from black. This boy, he's all for protecting the witches, but he saves witches, which is good, but then he beats them. I don't really know why. I stopped before I got a resolution for that. So I'm like, okay, Mr. Hero, what are you doing here? You're not making me like you. But then later on, when we're on another witch hunt and Mr. Nye is leading the pack, he remembers one time when he had to kill a witch and her son saw the whole affair, and then Nye is like, yeah, that son went on to write a book. It didn't sell well, so the dude jumped off a building. Then it sold really well afterwards. I even bought a copy. I just wanted to read the end. And you got me over here that was very darkly funny, and I like it, but I just don't know if I like you yet. I like Madness. Madness is cool. Aside from Nye, none of the other characters really shone out to me. The love interest, Ivy, not her. There was one scene involving this group, I think, that are called Bridlers, where we introduce 6 characters all at once in a dungeon or a torture cell or something like that. And yeah, I am not a fan of introducing characters in one big lump. So right now I'm veering between a 2 or 3. But if you like Voices of Madness, calmness whispering in your ear. You might like this book. You probably won't like Nye. Like, here's a quote I wrote from Nye's point of view. He had indeed saved Diane a few years ago, but he also butchered her parents and had abused her ever since. She'll forgive me. She always does. I don't think I like Nye. I forgot I also DNF'd Year One by Nora Roberts. Well, first off, like the first 3, I think, chapters of this book were really Scottish. Like, very. I did not know what the heck was happening. Like, what the doodles is a first footer? Sounds cool. I could Google it, but my phone is the thing filming this, so I can't. So also, if you're very, very sensitive to the current germy events happening in the world, do not read this. Don't. Even I, with my stout, strong moral structure and internal core, I was reading this and I'm like, anxiety. It's been a while. But anyways, this is a book about the apocalypse happening because some idiot shot some crow on top of like this sacred little stone structure. And so now all the world is dying because of a plague. And that crow dying also like introduced or like reignited magic back into the world. And I just think that both the magic and the apocalypse attributes, while they could work together, just did not work with this book. Like, the magic just seemed to be intruding a lot. And I know Nora Roberts writes a ton of books. Like, I see her name everywhere. I know she mostly does like love stories and contemporaries. And the writing style really shows that it's super simple. And so are the characters. Like, again, like a lot of these books I DNF'd, none of the characters were great. They were bland. They were stereotypes and stuff. No one I could really get behind. But the catalyst that made me bounce out of this was a character named Lena. Lena is who I hate in every horror apocalypse movie. She's the one who's like, who doesn't know it's the end of the world. Like, her boyfriend says, honey, it's time to run out of the apartment. Like, we're being surrounded by cannibals or something. And she's like, oh, Billy, I don't know his name. Billy, do we have to take a gun? We've never used guns before. Did you just not hear cannibals? Oh, Billy, I know we're being chased by cannibals, but can we rescue that child on the side of the road? The child is the decoy for the evil biker gang. Trust no one. Lena, says Billy. Lena, I'm going to die. You have to use your special powers. Oh, but I can't, Billy, I'm untrained. If I was in charge of this apocalypse, you would be the first person I ate. So yeah, I was having issues this month. But I guess we can talk about the books I did actually read. I have individual book reviews already up for Rage of Dragons, Anxious People, and the best book of this month, and probably of this year, The Lies of Locke Lamora. If you want an Oliver Twist meets the Mafia meets magic book, right here. This was a 5. If you want an edgier 6 of Crows, Crooked Kingdom, it's right here. So I talked to a ton of people about this book, and they all say, if they didn't finish it or DNF'd it, that they all stopped at like the same part. And this is basically the Ponzi scheme explanation part. And I'm like, bro, I know what you meant, but trust me, power through. Like, this is a roller coaster. You're getting up to the hill, but you know, the taller the hill, the more epic the drop. You just need to get to the drop and you will love it. It honestly does have a really slow start. Even I was like, do I want to finish reading this? Because it is about a heist, but it's really thorough in explaining its heist. Like, we have to build up this whole false identity, and we have to listen to like pages and pages of backstory about this false identity, and we have to listen to them plan about the heist before the heist and the hijinks and the fighting even happens. But please just get over that hill and you will have a beautiful ride. I cried. I have not cried in a book in forever. The magic in this world was really interesting, especially like the Bonds magic. They're like this group of like wizard assassins. Doesn't that sound epic? And like they're really close. Like if you kill one of their members, they're all gonna come after you. So they're like a big threat. You will love the gang in this. Oh my gosh. Locke Lamora himself is amazing. He made me laugh so much. Oh my gosh. Jean, the best friend, he's like a teddy bear, but like that evil teddy bear from that anime. I love it. The twins, the little boy, I think his name was Bug. I love Bug. What's his name, Bug? If I am not doing that boy justice by not remembering his name. Is that Bug? Anyways, fantastic characters, fantastic world building. Like, we're only in one little city right now, but it feels so rich. Like, you are there. It's really dirty in that city, by the way, but the world's only getting bigger because I'm going to read the sequel, Red Seas Under Red Skies, this month in February, and I'm excited. I just hit my hand on the desk. Ow. I'll never write again. It also did this thing where like the timeline for like the first half of the book wasn't always linear. Like sometimes it zigzagged all over the place. It's kind of confusing and just didn't make sense at the time for me. However, it stopped doing it, so I got over it. That was really my only complaint. Besides that little hill I keep talking about where it's a lot of talking but no action. But Like, you will love it. Like, there's a lot of culture in this book. Like, you get a sense of what they're about. The gangs, the like events, like those that gladiator event they have where they have to like fight the shark, the animals, and just like a bunch of the myths around them and stuff like that. Loved it all. And while the lies of Lamora made me cry, Anxious People made me laugh out loud. Oh my gosh. This book is like, I gave it a 4, and it didn't give me a message that was really new to me. It's a love yourself, everyone is feeling the same way you're feeling basically kind of book, but it was the characters and the humor that just like packaged it up so well for me and sold me on it. I need to read more of Fredrik Bachmann. This is a book about a bank robbery gone wrong. Our bank robber, they run into a cashless bank by accident, so there's no cash. So our bank robber runs out into the first like unlocked door of a house he can find. Turns out it's an apartment showing, so there's like 8 people in the living room, and he ends up taking them all hostage because it's either that or leave the building and be arrested because there's policemen swarming the premises now. But of course the bank robber didn't want to rob the bank. There was just no other option. It's a book about life just giving you a bad hand. And oh my gosh, this book, it literally says a ton of times that this is a book about idiots. Everyone in this book, you cannot say none of these people had personalities. They had over-the-top personalities, and I loved it. You will love at least 3 characters in this book. I guarantee it. My favorite ones was Jack the policeman, Zaina, I think that was her name, and also the bunny. Those 3, I love them. At first, it took me a while to get like really adjusted to Fredrik Bachmann's writing style, because it had a really, it honestly felt like magical realism for a moment. Like if I blinked, like, oh, Casey blinked, like the way a widow in November would slam her shutters shut. Stuff like that, like really weird descriptions attached to events. Sometimes I read it and I was like, I don't even know what you're describing anymore, man. But I just had to like recalibrate my brain for a second, and then it was smooth sailing. There's just a lot of love in this book, and you need to read it. You an anxious people? I'm an anxious people. You should read Anxious People. Rage of Dragons, an incredibly successful self-published book that's now being traditionally published. Has a lovely cover. I advocate any sort of dragons in books. This is an African-inspired story where our people, I cannot remember their name, we're just going to call them the dudes. Our people, the dudes, they were chased out of their native homeland by this immortal race called the Cole, I think. And so they like shipwreck on this new land, and the natives of the new land are not that happy about it, but the dudes are like, we have literally nowhere else to go, so we about to conquer this business up in here. So yeah, there's a war, and it doesn't end. It just keeps going and going for like 200 years. So the dude's culture becomes really like war-based. You can't get anywhere in life if you're not part of the war effort. Our main character, Tao, he's been preparing his whole life to be initiated into the army when he becomes a man. But then he gets his first taste of like actual violence and death, and he realizes this is not the path for me. I want out. But if you opt out of the military, you become basically a slave. And so our boy Tao like devises a plan to accidentally injure himself in battle so he'll be released honorably, basically, so he can go back and live with his girlfriend and have children and, you know, not die with a sword in his kidney. However, something terribly goes wrong and it sends Tao on a bloodthirsty rampage for vengeance. I loved the revenge part of the story, but it's a 3. Like, to me, we have like 2 plots going on. The revenge quest and the war going on in the background. I liked going after the people for revenge. I liked him having to find a way to be initiated into the army. I loved the fighting scenes and like the tournaments they had to go through in order to like rank up high in the army. Those are fantastic. Anything involving the sword in this book was really good. The magic system that involved them like stepping into the spirit realm, basically, that was lovely. However, I was like, almost every book besides Locke, Lamora, and Anxious People, they were like, if you were not Tao in this book, you did not have a personality. I didn't get to know any of his like sword brothers or anything like that. He himself was very stupid, Tao. Like, he's the type who will go up to his mortal enemy and explain how he's going to kill him instead of actually killing him, giving the enemy time to like slice him up. So I couldn't get attached to any characters besides Tao. I really liked Tao's like character arc in this book, because he went from, I don't want to fight, I want to live. Then he went to, I must fight, I must avenge those who aren't living. Then he like spiraled into madness. I love it. And I loved how he like trained in the book, because he didn't start out good with a sword. He was very about it. But then he's like, I must become better. So he started training with humans. But then he started beating up all the humans. So then he found other non-human things to train with. It's very nice. But everything involving the war itself, and even the dragons like felt really shoved off to the side. The war didn't care. There was even some parts of the revenge story that just did not work out. Like, our main goal as Tao is that we want to kill like 3 or 4 people who were like involved with the death of someone we loved. However, those 3 or 4 people, we just meet them that one time where they killed the loved one, and I don't feel like a murder connection. Like, I just met you. I don't really care about the person you killed. I have no bond with you, basically. I don't have a reason to hunt you down and kill you. Tao does, but I didn't see any relationship building between him and the loved one. So even though I loved the revenge story, I didn't actually want revenge on the people we were revenging with. It's a confusing slope. I'm in the minority. I was very meh. You might like it. Go read it. And now that I'm talking about it again, part of me is like, do I want to keep reading the series? I mean, I want to see where Tao is going with his insanity. But I'm also like, but it wasn't that good. The dilemmas of being a booktuber in a constant state of what should I do? Last 2 books, we got some thrillers up in here. I finally read Final Girls by Riley Sager. It just took like 2 years. This is one of his earliest books. I read Lock Every Door. I read Home Before Dark. I loved both of them. This one, I gave a 3.5. I can definitely see how he like evolved as a writer, because this book is about our girl Quincy. Is it Quincy? Yes, it's Quincy. Quincy survived a massacre. Basically, this killer came to the log cabin that she and her friends were vacationing at, killed everyone. She somehow managed to survive. She doesn't remember exactly what happened, but she's alive. The media has like deemed her and 2 other girls who survived similar incidences at different times as the final girls. The girls who survived the massacres in horror movies. Quincy isn't that pleased being called this, but she's managing to get her life back together. She has a baking blog and stuff like that. She has a good boyfriend. She has a great friend named Houck, who is actually the police officer that helped save her life that horrible day. But we start to hear in the news that one of the final girls, let's call her Angelica. Angelica's dead. Like, she killed herself, but she didn't. It's a lie. Someone killed Angelica. And so Quincy and the one other remaining final girl get together and try to see what happened. Is someone hunting the final girls? My first impression of this book was that it was really chill. Like, with thrillers, you're constantly on your feet, because like new hints and clues are dropped like every couple of chapters. But instead of being like a typical thriller to me, where like it's like this the whole time, this book was like this, like going upwards, because like I was enjoying myself, but then the climax was all blah 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 blah. I was just like calmly enjoying myself without any real suspense until the final parts, and I'm like blah 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 blah. Like, my heart was going crazy, and I'm like, too much action all at once, but I'm loving it. So yeah, basically this book is waiting for the action to really get started. Part of the whole thrill of this book is like, yeah, Quincy's getting some threatening letters, so we want to know who's sending that. We want to know the identity of the guy who killed all the people in the log cabin. So we're just waiting for some clues to fall together. And yo, I was shipping 2 people really hard in this book, Quincy and Coop. I was like, kiss. Just go ahead and kiss. Just do it now. You have my blessing. And because Quincy is a unreliable narrator, because she has like amnesia because of the trauma of the incident, what she does remember comes in bits and pieces. So one medium thing that took away some of the awesomeness of the climax that had me going like this is that it was broken up into chunks. Like, we had Quincy present day, paragraph break, Quincy flashbacking to the log cabin, then present day, log cabin, present day, log cabin. It was really disjointed. So it really like pulled me away from the climax, remembering what happened at that log cabin event that I wanted to know about the whole book. It was disjointed in a way that was really unsatisfying. However, once we know, like, who's doing all the dirty things, who's killing people, who's sending letters, I was like, oh, you got me. I did not see that coming. You took advantage of my love. And my final read of the month was I Know Who You Are. This one's a 3. So, oh my gosh, I wish the ending was so much better, because I was loving this whole book. So this is about our girl Amy. Amy is an actress, you know, just trying to make her way up in the world, but she has a secret. So she ain't telling you her secret. But her husband just went missing, so the police are sniffing around. So Amy, she wants to know where her husband is, but she's also like, if they sniff around too much, they might find out about my other secret. So we have to like maneuver carefully from here on out. This book was so dark. Like, I loved it. There was an unspeakable scene with a hamster and some chicken nuggets. I was like, wow, I've met someone darker than me, and I loved it. When I want to read a thriller, I want to actually be scared for my life. This one was very good at that. So for some reason I looked at the Goodreads review of this book before I started reading, which is something I rarely do. And like the first negative review was like, I am so tired of these women who think they're just so like bad booty, so edgy in their monologuing and their thoughts. Like, they feel like they can take on the whole world with their stilettos. I was improvising towards the end, but that's the gist of it. Like, they're tired of the bad girl attitude. No, this main character is literally a flower drowning in fabric softener. She is so fragile. She could break at any moment, and that made me love her. Because I'm like, girl, come into my arms, I'll protect you. I really liked Amy because she's like internally screaming all the time, but she manages to keep a nice smiling face like me. Although when I first started reading it, I honestly wasn't that fond of the writing style. Like, it was really just trying really, really hard. Like, here's a little example. Life remodels relationships, like the sea reshapes the sand, eroding dunes of love, building banks of hate. But one thing that did cause me a lot of anxiety in this book was I really hate it, like a love-hate, because it makes me feel emotions when characters are framed or set up for something in this book, because that just gives me the most anxiety. I'm like, because I hate being put in a situation like that where someone's blaming me for stuff and I did not do it. And our girl's getting framed for like murder. And I was like, this book, I can't put it down because I just need to make sure our girl is innocent. I was generally really happy whenever Amy like got a break and was happy herself. So I loved our main character. She has an awful childhood. I loved reading about it. Also, I had like a billion theories going on in this book. Like, I have a whole list right here. I just want to brag and say I managed to guess it around page 146. You know, not bad. But I like threw it away because I was like, no, it's not this. No, don't do it. Like, it sounds like I really like this book. And I did until like the last 30 pages. And then it went woo! Like, excuse me one moment. That was nasty. My theory was proven right, and I'm very sorry that I was right. So, yeah, I had to knock off some stars because of that incident. However, one person got beat up with a Jesus statue, and I approved of it. I'm sure Jesus approved of it too. And that last chapter, like, it has some questions attached to it. I'm like, girl, did you murder someone? So, I do like this book, but you shouldn't read it. Maybe you should. Just don't read the last 30 pages. Just ask me what happened in the last 30 pages, and I'll give you a description. So that was my insane reading month. So many DNFs, some good books, some weird books. Oh my gosh. A lot of YA cringe, but we move on. We get better. We find new books. That's what we do in this relationship. I am Casey. You guys are awesome. And I'll see you for the February wrap up. Stay reading, my friends.